In a rundown tavern, tucked into a forgotten corner of the video game universe, a storm is raging. The barkeep gets a garbled phone call, and one thing comes through clearly. Someone at the Sixpint Inn is planning a murder. There are 6 patrons staying there, and every one of them is a plausible suspect. All video game protagonists, each pulled from a different genre: platforming, fighting, RPG. Each of their respective franchises has crashed and burned in some way. You are given control of them one at a time and told to dig through their memories to figure out who is guilty. Each flashback plays out as an entirely different genre of game, sometimes blending several at once, and by exploring these memories, you may uncover the murderer's identity or something far darker. The patrons include Chef Bryce, originally a character from a cooking game, who was later bought out and folded into a fighting game series as a guest character. Chandrelle Stormblaze, a fantasy RPG heroine, Rust McClane from a post-apocalyptic strategy RPG, Lazarus Bleeze, a space marine who seems to strangely already know Chandrelle, and a silent, mysterious sixth figure known only as a series of question marks. Rounding out the group is Weasel Kid, star of the very first platformer in this world. Bryce's story sets the tone for what all 6 of them are really dealing with. He started out working alongside his grandmother in a cooking game until the developer bought his rights and moved him into a fighting game series against his will. Once he was finally removed from that series, he tried to go back to cooking with his grandmother, only for Irving to show up and inform him he was being called back in for a sequel. When Bryce refused and Irving provoked him into striking out in anger, the blow landed on his grandmother instead, and Bryce permanently banned from ever appearing in another game. He ended up finding a help wanted sign for the Sixpint Inn and started working there as a cook with nowhere else left to go. Chandrelle's story runs in a different direction. She hated being used as entertainment for an audience that never treated her as anything more than a character on a screen. And after being recast as the heroine of her own RPG, she deliberately allied herself with the game's villain to sabotage the story from inside, ruining the launch on purpose to keep any sequel from ever happening. Irving's punishment for that betrayal was cruel and lasting, trapping that same villain inside her own mind, a possession she's still carrying by the time she reaches the inn. The barkeep himself is Reginald, and almost nothing about him is what it first appears to be. He's actually Root Beer Reggie, the star of developer Lionel Snill's very first game, and the actual mastermind behind everything that's happened at the inn. Reggie was crippled for the rest of his life on Irving's orders, and he never got over being abandoned, carefully planning revenge against the man who made him and then discarded him. He brought all 6 patrons to the inn, under various pretenses, invented a fake murder plot to keep the player invested and paying attention, and quietly coordinated a real plan behind the scenes the entire time. That real plan is a raid. Jeremiah, Reggie's own assistant and a fellow refugee from his abandoned first game, recruits Weasel Kid and Lazarus, and convinces them to join him on a mission to breach the GameWorks and steal an artifact. What initially seems to be a straightforward mission clearing an alien base gradually reveals itself as something else entirely. The player isn't reliving Lazarus's memory of a video game at all, but actively enabling a real attack on GameWorks headquarters. The enemies being fought throughout aren't aliens or monsters, They are Irving's own employees, and other game characters deceptively disguised the whole way through. Weasel Kid's specific job during the raid is setting a bomb beneath the building, which ultimately levels the facility. At the end of the raid, an alien confronts the group directly, calling them criminals, and reveals itself to be Irving, who then admits that every other alien they've killed along the way was actually an innocent GameWorks employee. Once the facade fully breaks and the GameWorks building is destroyed, Lazarus has to fight through its lower levels to finally retrieve the artifact himself. Irving survives that encounter for a little while longer. He's the representative of the GameWorks, in charge of making sure every game runs smoothly. And he's built a long, ugly history with Bryce, Chandrelle, and Lazarus alike. He responds to any challenge to his authority with brutal force, and takes real, perverse enjoyment in making the characters under his control miserable. When he finally shows up at the Sixpint Inn in person to arrest Lazarus for his role in the raid, Reggie deliberately baits Lazarus into coming out of hiding with a gun. Irving tries to talk him down, but this time it fails, and Lazarus shoots him in the chest, while Reggie distracts him. And not one person in that room grieves him. Chandrelle says outright that he deserved it. With the artifact finally secured, Reggie's real purpose comes into focus. The final game the player passes through is Walk, an autobiographical account told from Lionel Snill's own perspective, tracing his slow unraveling under the pressures of running his own studio. At the end of it, the other characters step in to help the player retrieve the artifact the earlier raid had actually been a cover to obtain all along. This artifact, the titular Hex, allows Reginald to step out of the game entirely and into the real world, where he finds and kills Lionel Snill, finally solving the murder mystery he invented from the very beginning. If this one resonated, subscribe. New essays drop weekly, and you never know what's coming next. Share it with someone who'd get it, and leave a comment. I want to know which door this opened for you. Mystery Compendium, the archive, is always open.